Imagine the last time you indulged within content consumption of any kind, or maybe you find yourself on a content consumption binge right now. I mean, after all, there must be a reason that you find yourself sitting in front of this video today. Think of every time you've been on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. Think of the content that you've consumed as of late. What was the content like, and why were you watching it? The odds are, you more than likely hated yourself each and every time you got into one of these cycles. The content has no value or meaning, and doesn't improve your life whatsoever. You were likely bombarded with loads of information, with many fast-paced videos in a row designed to captivate your attention and nothing more. And on top of that, of course, there are algorithms behind this sort of content nowadays. These algorithms read and analyze our preferences inside and out, and attempt to get us trapped into consuming the same ideas over and over again. They know what will keep us engaged and harvest our attention. And this happens with comments too. On videos, have you ever noticed that most controversial and divisive comment threads are pinned at the very top? While everything else is drowned out at the bottom. This sure makes the world look like a grueling place, doesn't it? Look, I digress though. We can all look at online content today and almost unanimously cringe at it. Sure, the odd good quality video may exist that actually may have some entertaining value to it. The odd creator may exist who puts out generally good content. And because of these things, we stay plugged into these platforms. However, if we can agree on anything, these people in videos are far and few, and by no means even come close to making up for the majority. Now let's turn back the clocks a little bit here to see exactly what I'm trying to get at. This idea of short-form content really only started to take off around roughly 2013, with the commencement of platforms such as Vine and Instagram videos beginning to take shape. Looking back at this content now, sure, many of us can largely agree that the content wasn't great. However, there's definitely something to be said about the simplicity of the content being produced around this era on the internet. With many of these platforms not even having readily available video editors to work with, people simply had to work with exactly what they had. This content was in turn objectively much more simplistic in nature, despite how bad some of it may have been. This was a time when our minds were not yet being completely wrung out and overstimulated by an overwhelming overload of sensory information. Sure, platforms like Vine and Instagram video were similar to modern day modes of short form content in the sense that they were quick to watch, easy to digest, and followed a typical format of scroll to watch content. However, there's definitely something to say about the quality of videos from around this time. Why did they seem so much more enjoyable to watch? Why did they seem so much easier to consume? Now some may brush this off as just viewing the past with rose-colored glasses and being reminiscent of what once was. However, there's no denying the difference between early content from places like Vine and modern-day short-form content on platforms like TikTok and YouTube Shorts. This was an era when we were not yet being overstimulated and where simplicity was still appreciated. This was well before social media algorithms advanced enough to ensure the most unwavering levels of engagement possible from our minds and content consumption diets. To those who never got to experience this firsthand, there's something so nice about not having content being shoved in your face at all times. For not having an algorithm rile you up with a bunch of overstimulating, well, dare I say, garbage. Fast forward a little bit, and Vine shuts down in about January 2017. This event proved to be huge, as this only really left Instagram video and maybe Twitter left as the only real modes of consuming short-form content. Though this proved to be somewhat of a brief break in the world of short-form content, this left a hole in the market, and as proven with both Vine and Instagram, the demand was still very much there. Then in November of this year, this would all change. Musical.ly was once an app that was primarily targeted at a younger audience, in which people can make both lip-syncing and dancing videos with a large library of community-provided sounds to choose from. The original app was released in August of 2014, and with Vine being at the top of its game at the time, Musical.ly was greatly looked down upon. Many people thought that the app and its surrounding community was cringe, as it was generally seen as a hotbed for poor and low quality content targeted towards a younger audience. Because of this, the app was under constant scrutiny, and most people within the short form scene around this time certainly didn't think highly of it, or let alone that it even had the potential to become a world-renowned social media site. Does this app and this concept sound familiar to you? But I digress. The Chinese-based social media app was then acquired by ByteDance Limited in November of 2017. It would then be merged into TikTok, the app we know today, on August 2nd, 2018. In the beginning, the app of course inherited the mostly negative reputation of its predecessor Musical.ly. And this would be understandable, as the app and its community would remain mostly the same throughout this time. It was, for the most part, the same low-effort lip-sync/dancing content as before. This framework, of course, is one that would remain within the app to this very day, though of course people would begin to get a bit more creative with the app's functionality. This would then go on to diversify the app's content, and soon enough would begin to attract many eyes because of this. Soon enough, the app's growth would begin to become exponential. Of course, with its prior reputation, the app would prove to be slow to get off the ground during the first year and a half or so of its release. However, as seen on Google Trends, it was around late 2019 to early 2020 that the app's success would truly begin to explode around the world. And of course, this would only continue to snowball with the onset of the pandemic, and with many people bored and curious about what the app was all about. In fact, many people, and myself included, downloaded the app purely as a gag, and of course, as mentioned previously, the app was primarily associated with Musical.ly, which itself was a hotbed for low-quality content. Now, this period around early 2020 would mark the beginning of a new era of web content production. There'd be a noticeable shift from content that was usually of decent quality, or that was at the very least fulfilling in some way, to low-effort content that was purely designed to attract the most eyeballs as possible. And of course, TikTok's unique algorithm would not help much in this regard either. Soon enough, short-form content went from something, though maybe counterproductive, was not seen as something too negative to something highly addictive and near impossible to escape from. Instead, the focus shifted from producing creative and/or quality content to producing fast-paced videos meant to wring people out of the most attention possible, no matter how otherwise poor quality the content in question may be. And of course, with most videos following the Musical.ly inspired framework of layering community generated sounds over video with some simple editing, content creation became easier for people to do. Of course, in cases like these though, ease is usually synonymous with a poor outcome. Soon enough, these short videos all became one and the same. What would be posted on TikTok would also be shared all around Instagram and YouTube Shorts as well, which would join as a short-form content competitor in early 2021. No matter how much one can try, it seems almost impossible to escape this never-ending cycle of short-form content, no matter what platform you find yourself on. With many of these platforms having a similarly fashioned algorithm to that of TikTok, this makes matters even worse. In other words, short-form content has become inescapable in a sense. Now what about long-form content? It's safe to see that long-form content has somewhat faced a similar dilemma in the past in regards to flashy thumbnails, clickbait, and otherwise dramatized video titles. However, the difference with these kinds of videos is that they were more easy to evade. If one really wanted to, they could more easily disregard a flashy thumbnail or enticing video title. With short-form content, however, the content is already right there in front of you, playing frame by frame. And of course, with a shorter time to convert viewers into watchers, and with many watchers having lower attention spans, the contents of these videos have become even more hard to watch due to just the pure overstimulation that faces us. Tell me, how often do you see videos with some guy screaming some hook at you through a camera with energetic music and enough visual effects to trigger an epileptic seizure? Or some fast-paced spliced-up podcast clip with a game of Subway Surfers playing in the background? Take a look at this kind of content and contrast it with the short-form content that came from even only 5 years ago, and you'll quickly be able to observe the changes that our content has gone through over the years, especially in terms of quality. Short-form videos used to generally be slower and with a bit more substance for the viewers to play with. This bombardment of information that we deal with today on short-form platforms was virtually non-existent. However, now we can begin to see the impact that TikTok has had on the world of short-form content and beyond, only after about 5 short years or so. With long-form content too, this very same attention-grabbing framework is beginning to be replicated among long videos. Put simply, the effort put into engaging viewers directly is much greater than the objective quality of many videos. If one observes hard enough, it becomes almost painfully obvious that the style of hooking viewers' attention in styling content has been taken right off TikTok. To prove this, look at almost any video from a trending content creator nowadays, and look at how they style their videos. Especially if the content is geared towards a younger audience, you will see these same TikTok-like tactics at play. This as well does not mean that the content geared towards older audiences can't fall victim to this either, as this is most certainly the case, and the same experiment as mentioned previously applies just as much. What's up with all this commotion? All of the fast-paced frames, fast music, and sensory overload? Within a few short seconds of most popular short or long-form content, one is being bombarded with more interesting tidbits of information than one can realistically keep track of. And the worst part about all this is that, does anyone really like doing this to themselves? Can people truly appreciate content on the basis of quality instead of passively watching content that's engaging but not much else? It's almost like the addict that doesn't like to indulge but does so anyway due solely to habit alone. Now let's do a little bit of an experiment and turn the clocks back a little bit. If anyone remembers early YouTube like me, remember how the majority of content seemed so entertaining, as simple as it may have been? Hell, even someone talking in front of a grainy webcam for a half hour seemed to be so entertaining back then. The community was also largely oriented around simple skits around this time too, which seemed to provide so much entertaining value back in the day. Nowadays, even with the energetic content we do have available literally designed to eat as much attention out of us as possible, cannot seem to replicate that high. It's almost as if we built ourselves a monster content consumption habit nowadays, and that what little used to make us happy even a few short years ago now seems to have no effect. In fact, looking back at any content from prior to 5 years ago now almost seems boring. It seems as if what people used to find entertaining even a short while ago is just simply ineffective now. And I hear people in the comments talking about how this could just be nostalgia. However, I would disagree. You can look at really any video topic that seems fairly interesting to you right now on any topic. Something you find interesting now and not something from your past. Now, watch some older content on the topic. Something feels different, doesn't it? The vibe of the content, how it was structured, something just seems off, right? Or if you want to take this a step further, watch some old school cartoons or TV shows, things that people outside of our generations found greatly entertaining. It all just seems so boring nowadays. Though this one may be a bit of a stretch. It's unfathomable that some people used to find, say, silent films entertaining. Though regardless, you get the idea. With this in mind, it's hard to believe where we will find ourselves within the next, say, 5 or even 10 years with online content. Another thing that's mostly inspired me to make this video is that I myself quit short form content for good around March of 2023. It may be hard to believe with my channel at this point in time mainly covering short form content related topics, however, it was at this time that I deleted both TikTok and YouTube Shorts for good. From a more personal standpoint, I found it to just be useless content that was not bettering me in any way and was just a plain and simple waste of my time. As of course, I was just being bombarded with information that I honestly didn't really care about and that held no benefit to me. In the beginning, I found that long-form content, no matter how interesting it may have objectively been, was just harder to watch. In fact, most of the videos I couldn't even finish halfway through. Found that I had nothing to do with my excess amount of free time anymore that was once filled with consuming short-form content, though slowly but surely I found more productive things to do with my freed up time, and got to the point where the only content that I would truly consume throughout the day would be the odd long-form video before bed, usually something I actually found truly interesting or otherwise useful to my life. So anyway, why bring myself up? Well, this is where the idea for this video begins to take form for me. After being away for so long and taking a look at the default YouTube homepage after all this time proved to almost be like a sensory overload in of itself. So, out of curiosity, I decided to check out a few videos, and the bizarre thing is that I didn't feel pleasure from watching these creators anymore. Even from watching creators I used to watch all the time only a few short months ago, what once used to undoubtedly capture my attention in the past just felt grossly overwhelming now. For example, I remember watching a random podcast clip with fast music, fast clips and transitions, and of course, a game of Subway Surfers playing above in the background, to ensure capturing whoever's attention that dares passively show up to the video. I found it was just pure bombardment. I had to click off just out of this feeling of pure annoyance and disgust. I asked myself, who the hell actually gets any enjoyment from this BS? Of course, videos about quitting short-form content and general willpower tricks owe themselves separate videos. But from a sober mindset and from someone who has been away from all of the chatter for about 5 months now, it really made me truly realize just how far gone online content has become. And maybe it's just perceptual, but even 5 months later, it all seems worse off than it was not even half a year ago. It really makes one think about these things and what base level online content will evolve into within the next 10, 5, or hell, even 2 years. Even comparing 2019 to 2023, it seems like the world of online content has just done a complete 180. So much has changed, but however, from my perspective at the very least, I can't say with any confidence whatsoever that is for the better. And of course, low quality content and clickbait has always been a thing. However, for the most part, this was much easier to brush off even a few short years ago. However, what's more important to distinguish is that now, this seems to be more of the norm than anything else. And with most everyone consuming some form of online content nowadays, this is certainly more observable than ever before. That, and with engagement being at the forefront of the modern day content creation game, this has led to an observable decrease in the quality of arguably all online content, both long form and short form alike. Regardless, I suppose I have said all that I've needed to regarding the matter. I just found this to be an interesting subject matter, as I've both heard from others and observed myself that something simply just seems to be amiss with the online content of today. And with things moving so fast, it can be hard for many of us to really notice what's been happening to us right in front of our own eyes. With all this being said, I think it's safe to conclude that in general, online content has been on somewhat of a steady decline over the years. Whether or not this is mostly influenced by TikTok or simply has its roots in social media companies trying to promote content that boosts engagement is anyone's guess. Of course, my interpretation is not the only one that exists, and if you have any interesting stories or anything supplemental that may be interesting that is relevant to the video, then you're more than welcome to share your thoughts in the comments below. With that being said, I believe that concludes the video. Take care, and I hope you enjoyed the video or otherwise got something from it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.